recording. Admit. Admit. Joining.
All right.
Hello, everybody.
Bonjour.
So for the few people I just let in, I'm just gonna wait a few minutes just in case there are any stragglers, because there tend to be stragglers. I myself am a straggler.
Yeah.
So just sit tight. Yes, always. I'm chronically late. It's actually really horrible.
I'm the king of late. I'm like actually.
Yeah, I know, Paul.
Yeah.
I am extremely aware.
What like
Love
you know?
anyway, though.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So if I say I'm gonna show up at 7, what time generally do you think I'm gonna show up?
Oh, 8:30 the earliest.
Yes.
Maybe.
Hour and a half buffer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, listen. That is also how my family runs with like family gatherings. I have one cousin that they have to tell him stuff starts like way earlier than it actually does. And he still doesn't get there on time, so whatever.
Yeah. I had a teacher who was gonna take me to like an orchestra concert with some other kids, and he told me an hour earlier meeting time than everybody else. And I showed up an hour early. I'm like, where are you?
Oh, you did the one time?
Yeah.
Oh, how's it feel, Paul?
I you know what? I played myself, so.
You did.
Feels pretty good.
No, I get it. I am chronically late, and I always just think like, oh, I'll just keep leaving at the same time. One day it'll be different, and I'll still get there on time. Guess what?
No.
That's not how that works.
I have some, I'm doing the guidance counselor thing, and every time that a kid, like, I have to talk to a kid about being late, I just feel my soul shrivel up. It's just like, I don't want to be talking to you about this. Like, I showed up 10 minutes late today.
Ooh.
We have to talk about it.
Ooh. Paul, you're the captain now.
I know. It's weird.
Just when they ask me, like, no, I'm super on time all the time.
You see this tie?
Maybe just tell them you're late all the time, and they'll be like, oh my god, he's so relatable. Maybe he won't hand down a punishment, but then you have to anyway. So,
Oh yeah. Oh, I never do the punishment thing. I just like refer them to the vice principal. It's like, I tried.
Oh, it's like all the it's all the responsibility, but none of like the discipline.
All the good cop, none of the bad cop.
Honestly, that's a solid deal.
It's great.
I don't hate it. I mean, listen, whatever. At this point, I'm just like, whatever you guys want. Even here at work, when other librarians are like, those teens are being loud, I'm like, yeah, I know. I know. What do you want? They just got out of school. It's fine. I mean, I guess we probably won't have that issue for a while, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So it's 4:30 after, almost 5 after. So, all right. So if any of you guys have been in any of our Zoom programs before, the way we typically do it is, if you want to have your camera on, that's cool. If you don't want to have your camera on, also fine. But we're going to mute everybody for the beginning. And then the chat will be available and open. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns for the beginning, just drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it so I can kind of relay it to Paul. And then, I mean, at the end, and depending on how many people kind of show up, we can unmute everybody and have a nice little discussion. But just for the PowerPoint presentation part of it, we'll have everybody muted. But so welcome. I'm Nicole. I work at the Woodbridge Library. I'm usually over at Maine, but I kind of hop around to the branches occasionally. I do a lot of the teen programming. I am not musically inclined, but my friend Paul is. I have known him for almost 6 years now. He's very talented. Yeah. How's that?
Wow.
Almost 6 years. I know.
I'm old.
Yeah, well, me too. I'm older than you. But he's great. He's a very, very talented musician, extremely smart and funny dude. Very happy to know him. He's in a handful of successful bands. What is it, 3 at this point? Coming Cap, Boy Named John, Man Dancing. Does Man Dancing count? I'm just
saying. Man Dancing does not count.
Well, 2.5. Only
Sure.
because he subs in on that one.
I'll take 2.5.
But yeah, so I'm gonna give the floor over to Paul. Take it away, man.
Cool. Hey, so hello everybody. I'm going to kind of be looking back and forth in between these two screens. I have all your beautiful faces over there, and I have my presentation here. But we're gonna get through it. I am not a straight up public speaker, but I want to kind of open the floor to kind of any questions that you might want to have. So like Nicole was saying, if you want to drop questions in the chat, or even if you just want to unmute yourself and ask me questions, I'm okay with that too. I'm probably going to run a couple different conversations throughout the time. So a little bit about me. My name is Paul, and I have been doing music since I was probably in 3rd grade. I started off with guitar, went to saxophone, dropped guitar, and then I started French horn in high school, continued that till college. I picked up drums, I picked up keyboard, I learned how to sing. Much to the dismay of everybody in my house, I learned how to sing. And yeah, I really have been doing a lot. I try to view music as...
Play violin too.
Yeah, and I play violin. I try. So I view music almost as a kind of well, it is an art, but I view it as a way that I can kind of really get to know myself a little bit better. And I guess we'll talk about that a little bit in the future. So in college, I joined a band. I was lead singer of a band, and then I ended up joining my brother's band. I've been on a cross-country tour and kind of have experience in the music business as well as the networking business. And again, if you guys want to talk about some other more technical stuff, even apart from the songwriting, I am totally okay to answer any questions that you might have regarding, just my experience in general, how playing shows are, learning instruments, because I'm sure that I have a whole bunch of advice for you if you'd like also. So just to kind of jump into it, I have been writing music for a while. And one of the things that I've been doing recently is I've been kind of refining my songwriting style. Because quarantine happened, first of all, I hope that everyone is safe, everyone is okay. But quarantine happened, and I kind of decided to really get serious about the art of songwriting. So I kind of almost view it as two different things. Like, you can play an instrument, that's cool. You can make the art, that's cool. But then songwriting is just this whole other beast. Just like, being able to do addition and subtraction, and then being able to apply it to like geometry or algebra or whatever. So I just like to ask you guys, if you feel comfortable, what are your names, and do you play any instruments, and why are you interested in this workshop?
You guys can unmute yourself. You can. There's few of us enough that, like, if you want to unmute, go right ahead. It shouldn't be an issue.
Well, I'm Sophia. I'm a sophomore. I'm sophomore in high school, and I've been singing since I was in elementary school, and I've been acting since I was 7. I love writing songs and singing and all of that. I hope to pursue a career in acting and singing one day. So, and I feel like my songwriting could, like, use a little work. So I feel like this workshop would definitely help.
Sure. Great. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that, you do musicals, right? Is that kind of what you were saying?
Yeah, I do musicals and normal plays.
Right. That's tough. I actually was in a couple of musicals when I was in high school, and that's nothing to sneeze at. Like, musicals are tough. So kudos, I'm excited to kind of chat with you about, what you might want to talk about. And of course, if you have any questions that I haven't addressed, totally cool to ask it at any time. All right. And if Ozzy and Lux want to talk, that's okay. If you don't want to, that's okay also. But I guess we'll just get going here. Yeah. All right. So, Songwriting Workshop. I put together this slideshow, and I think I did about just as good as an 8th grader. All right. So, what is art? And this is my nice little paintbrush. I have pictures for each of those slides. I hope you enjoy. So I'm going to get into a little bit of really kind of technical stuff at the beginning just to get it out of the way. So a lot of people, when they think of art, what they end up doing is they categorize it as something different from your experience. So for example, if I make a song, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is my song, and it's about this or whatever. A lot of people, when they are talking about the song, they don't really talk about how it is almost like a living piece of them, right? So one of the things that I did at the beginning of when I was trying to, revamp my writing style was I messaged one of my idols. I messaged this guy on Instagram, and he has incredible lyrics. So I was like, okay, well, how do you write such incredible lyrics? And one of the things that he told me was this book, this Art as Experiences by John Dewey. And some of the things that he goes into say is that there's really not a difference between the art and your experience, right? So a lot of times we see art in a museum, we see art here, we see art there. We listen to art, but it's almost kind of put up on a pedestal in which it's separate from our daily lives. Art is really a reflection of our lives. Art is a kind of explanation in where we are. It's an explanation of how we interpret our world, right? So, and this is the most technical it's gonna get, I promise. But really, there's this disconnect, like this is art and this is me, but really it's kind of the same thing. So kind of that last point here was, I think, a note that I took when I was reading it. It's just so ingrained in our society to think of art being individualistic or special that it takes aesthetic pleasure out of daily living. So to kind of make that into plain English, I think that really the more that we see art as a place and time, the more that we see art as a normal thing, the more that we can appreciate it. So I can write a song about waking up in the morning, and then I could write a song about heartbreak, I could write a song about whatever, but really it's again, a reflection on your life, right? And a lot of people, I think, try to bypass that. And again, any questions, let me know. What is art? The process. Okay, so this is really something that I think is the most important thing. And it's something that you'll see a lot of people talk about. This is the little live the process thing. What I did was I literally Google imaged the slide names and took like one of the first couple images, but live the process. And I think that's important. I think that's kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier about, you know, art is a reflection of where you are. It's a reflection of, you know, how you've been and what you kind of want to do with your life. But kind of talking about the process, really it's one of the most important things to keep in mind. What you're doing when you create music, when you create art, you have a process, whether or not you're realizing it. One of the most important parts is to kind of refine that process and to be like, okay, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Does this work? Does this work? This doesn't work, this works. And kind of just like have a template for yourself. Have an idea of, you know, what can I do to make this work? One of the guys that I was talking to, I'll get to this a little bit later, he said, I have a process so that if I had a gun to my head, I know that I could create art. It's not something that, you know, this guy, he was like, okay, well, you know, maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't, maybe we'll see how it goes. This guy had a process. So he had an idea of what he needed to do, where he needed to be, how he needed to do it. So when you're creating music, again, a huge important part is to really recognize what works the best for you, right? So one of the things to keep in mind is process. It must be repeatable and it must be honest. So kind of going into that a little bit, if I say, for example, just out of nowhere decided, okay, these are my lyrics and this is my song and I'm going to put them together, and you don't really have, and it works out. It works out fine. That's fantastic. Sometimes there are those songs that come out of the blue, but sometimes that isn't repeatable. So something being repeatable means that you can do it at any time. So getting that strike of inspiration, that's not repeatable, because sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. So you want to make it as kind of foolproof as you can. And it also has to be honest. So if you're not enjoying this process, if this process isn't something that you want to do, it's not your process. For example, I was looking at this one guy on YouTube, and I was really researching the different processes of different people. And something that I noticed was like, I would never do that. And that's not to say it wasn't a good idea. I tried it once, I tried it twice, and it was just like, I can't get behind this. So having a process that you feel that you really are invested in, that you really enjoy, that's going to be your process. Finding that, whole other situation. Living the process, that's kind of what we were going into about the philosophy things. And again, when you're talking about your process, you keep, one of the more important things is to keep your setting and your situation in mind. For example, a part of my process, and we'll get into it a little bit more, is I'll take a shower, and I will probably, and this is strange, but I'm a night creature. So I literally, you know, I will wake up. I woke up, I think 3 hours ago. I woke up at 3 or 4 o'clock, and I kind of, the best time I do my writing is maybe like 2 in the morning. So I keep that in mind. It's like, okay, well, this is my time. This is a time that I really feel good about. And I've talked to other people, like sometimes they'll wake up and they'll do art. Sometimes it'll be right after lunch. Sometimes it'll be this. So keep in mind when is good for you, and keep your setting in mind too. I usually have a room in which I do art. It doesn't have to be that room. It doesn't have to be a certain place, but making things easy for yourself, making things repeatable, and making a routine is kind of like the lubricant to helping you make, you know, being creative. You know, if you're in the same place all the time and you get used to something, it kind of can help you be in a structure. And then we'll skip this for right now. So
I've heard the same advice goes for, like, if even if it's not like necessarily like a creative endeavor, but if you're like working from home, say, or like writing or drawing or writing, you know, prose or whatever, like you should have a place that's like your creative place, and not just like just sitting in your bed or on the couch, or, you know, because it's just kind of, you already get into like a different mode in those places. But like if you have that separate space, you kind of know, like, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. I got to put some work in.
yeah, exactly. Just kind of hit it on the head there. And I think that, again, speaks back to the idea of structure. So if you're used to something, you can do it really kind of however you like. Thanks. So next slide, process continued. Now we have this beautiful little greenery. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah.
Is that also from Google image search?
Oh yeah, this is all Google image. This is 100% Google image. And if you don't know how to use Google image, you can ask your lovely librarians at any library in the world, but Woodbridge is great. Process continued, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about spontaneity and organization. So in my process, what I like to do is I will have these moments where I get inspired by something, and those moments are incredible. And I really like some of the things that I get inspired by. What I do is I write that stuff in my phone, right? And I have a spreadsheet of, I think I started it since April, and I think that spreadsheet has like 500 or so just one-liners. It's just like one-liner. It's just like, if I'm listening to a podcast and I like something that someone said, that's going in the spreadsheet. If I'm if I see a bird, I'm like, thou bird doth on my windowsill, and just have this random thought in my head is going in the spreadsheet. So finding a mix between just the spontaneity, between this pure creation and an organization is really kind of important to me. Because when you're talking about pure spontaneity, when you're talking about pure off the cuff stuff, you can't really create a process, because we were talking about it being repeatable. When you're relying on something to just come to you, that's not repeatable. You have to kind of meet it where it's at. So the difference really between spontaneity and organization, and the organization is kind of what we were talking about, sitting down in a certain place, talking about, we'll get into a little bit more, but talking about your process, where you go, like, so have a game plan, but also have that creativity in the same spot. So I want to watch a video, and I hope that you, well, let's see how this goes.
Okay, I've never tried this on the Zoom.
Yeah, I think it'll work.
We're learning.
Yeah, we're always learning all the time. I'm gonna mute myself here.
Oh yeah, okay. Also, guys, I'm in this office that if you don't move for like a certain amount of time, the lights go out. So for a second there, I thought we had another power outage, and I kind of got really worried. But that's not it. It's just the lights. We're fine. Hey, I know that John Mayer guy. Sit down.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, all right.
You were good, and then it was just like, no.
What about,
No,
all right, what about now?
sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Can't see your screen though.
We got there. We figured it out. All right. So this is a John Mayer video, and it's kind of talking about. But you can hear me, yes?
I can hear you, but I can't see your screen.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay, it's back.
All right. So this John Mayer video kind of talks about that difference between spontaneity and creativity. So just kind of watch what he does, because this is just insane to him.
For a guitar, as you do right now, and you would sit there and
I'll pick up the guitar.
you pick up the guitar,
Yeah.
and your immediate feeling would be to do what?
Well, I don't always do it because it requires a stupid bravery all the time. But you could sit here all day. You can go, okay, maybe that's something. But if you don't go, sunlight's beating on the corners of the walls, and I'm a Mr. Know-It-All. Heaven calls, get yourself right now. If you're not Ouija boarding immediately, you're wasting time.
It's such a weirdo, man, because on the one hand, you have this really very aware part of who you are in terms of being able to analyze and move things through and construct and process, which is what all human beings do, but you seem super hyper aware of it.
Yes.
And yet in process like that, you're like a different human being.
Yes, you just go into, when I work it out, get on. Just stare at the corner of the wall. Stare at the corner of the wall. Try to get it going on, but I can't call out. You just keep going till you get something. Maybe I'm a little bit shy. Maybe someday I'll tell you why. Because I don't know. It makes all stuff, but you gotta keep forcing it. Go get it from the universe. He can't You're on stage now, and everybody's listening to thoughts coming out of my mind. But I won't be scared, 'cause I do it for a living. It's not a taking, it's a giving. Tell me why. Do you still want to hear me sing? Doesn't matter. And if you can get fearless. I mean, it's hard to do.
Yeah. So just absolutely insane. Can you guys hear me? Everything cool?
I can hear you. That's definitely not the first time I've heard that advice too. Like Neil Gaiman is just like, don't wait for inspiration or strike. Just write every day. Eventually something you'll get there,
Right, exactly. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna keep it on this this laptop because I think it's working a lot better than I had thought it was.
Okay.
So goodbye, other person there.
Okey doke.
Wait,
You're good.
let me leave. All right, cool.
Okay.
Awesome. And you can see me?
I can see your screen, but I cannot see you.
Oh, okay. Should you be able to see me?
Do you need us to?
Whatever. All right.
Yeah, you're fine.
So cool. Slide 4. Let's see. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. So that's kind of like an idea of a mix between spontaneity and organization. So it seems like what John Mayer did was he just was just pure creativity, but it's really not like that. He probably must have done that 800 million times. He put those 10,000 hours into, exactly where he, was in his process, and that's his process. That's how he works. So it seems like he just came out with a whole bunch of stuff out of nowhere, but he's done that a million times. So that's his organization plus his creativity. That's kind of how he brings his creativity to his process and the structure. So what he does is he creates this core structure and then just goes off until he finds something he likes. I have done that. I don't know if it's for me. I like to kind of put things on paper before I start. And this is actually one of the first, the first, what is it? Comment that I saw. I'm not saying he's not amazing, but keep note that a lot of improv doesn't actually come from nowhere. Dude's got journals and journals and text files on his computer, probably full of bars and ideas. I mean, he's been singing and playing to himself for how many years now? If you compare him to a bodybuilder who's been eating right and hitting the gym for every single day, 4 decades, it doesn't come from nowhere. The fearlessness is developed alongside the material. One's the delivery, the other is the package. People are always looking for the trick, but there's no shortcut to experience. That's why I like his music. So that's kind of exactly encompassing what I think I'm trying to get across here. Sometimes I find when I look at artists that I really look up to, it's just like, wow, I'm never gonna do that. There's no trick to it. But it's just like, yeah, they put in so much work. They put in a crazy amount of work. The guy that I ended up interviewing for to get better, he's like, he talked to his idols and he realized that they're just people who put in a lot of work. There's not really such a thing as genius. There is, but you have 1 out of 1 billion people. You're not going to be one of them unless you are. You might be a genius, but chances are probably not. And you should kind of act as if you're not. And if you are and you act like you're not a genius, then you're still going to get a whole bunch of stuff done, which is cool. So yeah, that's kind of where John Mayer's at. Let's see. He's just on a different level. Do you have a process? I was going to ask this, and we might go into this Google Doc, but Sophia, I think, I want to talk to you a little bit if you're still there. I wanted to ask you, do you have a process?
Well, at first, okay, this was my process before. I was like, maybe I should write, like songs based on like past experiences that I've had. So I would first like think of a past experience and then I would write it on paper and then like try to rhyme it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, sure. So when you say, I'm going to get a little bit specific here, but when you say write it on paper, do you mean like write a paragraph? Do you mean like write a poem? Do you mean like write single lines? Because there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it.
I feel like I write like in the middle of like a paragraph slash poem. It's like in stanzas, but they're each like own lines, if that makes sense.
Sure, sure. So it's like a longer poem almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah. I think that's a really great place to start. And I think that you know, if you're finding that you want to increase your songwriting, that you could try a whole bunch of other stuff. So really, and we'll get into this again, like thinking about what your process is and trying some other things out, because it makes a whole world of difference. So cool. I'm glad that you already have a process and you can totally build on that anytime you like. So the reason I ask about, you know, how you write it down is because sometimes what I'll do is I'll come up with a thought and I'll write like an essay on it. I'll be like, okay, well, what does this thought mean? So one of the thoughts I had was, if I'm forced to resign, what will happen? And that is my chorus, right? So then I kind of take that chorus and I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna write out like at least a page worth of what this means. What's the emotion? Why do I feel this way? What does this mean in other people's contexts? Where's my perspective? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? But why do I, you know, see things this way? What would it look like from somebody else? So,
Yeah.
right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. So let us keep it going.
How many songs have you written, do you think? Like if you had to like throw a number out there.
Not enough, actually.
Yeah,
In
I mean,
in
your EP is a thing. Remember that?
yeah. In the past couple of months, I've been really trying to make it a point to write like a song a week. So I think I have like 10 since like April, but they're nowhere near finished. They're nowhere near produced. They're just pretty much loose ideas, you know. So I'll have an idea of like, all right, well, this is just me and an acoustic guitar. How is it going to turn out from here? I don't know. But if I want to revisit it, I'll at least have some melody. I'll have some lyrics and some chords and some song structures. So and this is kind of going off, and I'll talk a little bit about more of my experience, but process changes with the different kind of points in your life, right? So for example, in the very beginning of my songwriting, I was recording with a friend, and I had never recorded before. I had never made a song before. So what happened was I would call him up like every week, like, okay, well, let's go record this stuff. And I would just off the fly, just be like, okay, well, let's come up with this guitar part, write it in a computer, record it on a microphone, do whatever, and come up with lyrics right there. And that's kind of how I started writing songs. Then it went into, all right, well, now I have a band, so we're all going to have band practice and kind of take each other's opinions on what we want to do. And it was much more of a democracy. Now what I'm kind of doing is I still have a band, but what I'm trying to work on is my own individual songwriting. So I'm trying to get better at lyrics. I'm trying to get better at, you know, what writing solo looks like. And you're always going to be changing your process. You're always going to be growing. But the important part is to really keep in mind what your process is and just kind of reflect on yourself. Well, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And can I do it any better? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So any misconceptions? This is a screenshot from Borat. It is an R-rated movie that you should not watch until you're older. I think I watched it when I was 13, but that's, yeah. I was in the theater with my mother, actually. She took me to go see Borat, my first R-rated movie. But so the reason that I chose this picture was this guy, he's from a different country, and he's looking at this, turtle, and he goes, "What kind of dog is this?"
It's a tortoise.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just kind of a misconception. And here are some of the misconceptions that I had when I was younger. So, you must be depressed to make good art. Absolutely incorrect. Some of the people that I talk to really make their best art when they're happier, when they're in a good mind space. You look at people like Kurt Cobain. You look at people like Nicole, help me out here. Who else?
What kind of examples are you looking for?
I'm looking for like, people who were,
Sad.
yeah, like people you like, oh, they were a sad artist, like Van Gogh, right?
Oh yeah, that's no
You,
I mean, Picasso was not the happiest dude. He had a lot of anger, and you know, yeah, I think there's a lot of negative emotion connected to art and music, especially. I think there's way more sad songs than there are happy songs. That's for sure.
yeah, and I think I think a reason that there are a lot of sad songs is because their experience almost kind of leads them to use music as a release, right? So, but regardless, you must be depressed to make good art. Absolutely not. People make art in spite of being depressed. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana made Nevermind, but he had a battle for it. He was very, very depressed. He, if you watch documentaries, he just was like not this happy guy. He was really, really struggling, but that didn't make his art any better. What made his art good was his creative process, and I that's the 800th time I've said creative process, but what made his art great was his creativity. It wasn't his depression. His depression was almost a hindrance. He did it in spite of being depressed. You don't need to be in a certain state of mind to make art. You have to be in a certain state of mind if you're going to make art you like, I guess, but if you can make art anytime, really. All good art comes from strikes of inspiration. Again, I don't think that's really a true thing. For example, I'll say it does happen though. It happens quite a lot. But it happens, not regularly. It's not repeatable. So I remember there was this one time I got out of I just hopped out of my car and I was like, I have this idea, and I wrote it on a table on a piece of paper on a table, and it happened in 20 minutes. And that was like, wow, that's awesome. That was a gift. That doesn't happen though. But did that make it better than my other art? Maybe not. Maybe so, but that's just kind of what happened. So all good art comes from inspiration. That's not necessarily true. The gift of songwriting is either something you have or you don't. Not true. You have to think of songwriting as just as much of a craft or as just as much of a discipline as math or as science or as whatever. You have to work at it. There are people who have higher natural talent for sure, but that doesn't mean that they didn't work at it. For example, there's this guy, Will Wood, in the local music scene, and he's so good, but underneath that so good, there's 800 hours of him in his basement,
Well, that was my next question to you. Was that you have a couple albums under your belt with X amount of songs on them. So say an album is 8 to 10 songs. How many songs do you then have left over that you just scrapped or you decided that you didn't like that just kind of didn't make the cut?
I think that with the bands that I've been in, it's we didn't really have a great process. So what you saw was what you got.
Okay.
We didn't have a lot of extra songs, but that was because we didn't really put ourselves in a mindset where we could create a lot. And it was more for this is what it is. But I do have personal stuff that I haven't showed the band. So you do have more songs that you're gonna use, of course, really. Oh, and this is another thing. You can only write about something once. Again, not true. This is something that I was struggling with for a while because say I came up with a song and I was like, okay, well, it's about, this situation in my life, girl X, whatever. And I felt like, I wouldn't be able to write about that same thing, but really there's an infinite amount of things to write about. What really makes it different is how you go about it, right? So, there's no rules. You can write about whatever you like. You can write about the same thing twice. You have bands who have albums that have themes in them, right? So the first song is almost related to the third song as far as themes go, are related to the fifth song. There's lyrics that tie them all together, which kind of indicates that they're writing about the same thing. So you can write about the same stuff as long as you really enjoy it, you know? There's no rule that says, all right, well, you wrote about, you know, the first day of school, now you can't write about it again. You can write about it from all different angles. And then the last point is really all good art comes easy. Not true, not true. All good so far? Cool. Questions to ask yourself in general. And this is kind of where the magic happens. You know, you were talking about, you know, coming up with a process. Having that process is, half of it is asking yourself questions. Why do I write? What do I want to write about? Why am I writing this? What is my process? When do I best write? What specifically do I like about my favorite music? And what am I doing to get better? Those are some of the questions that I ask myself. And it's important to ask yourself so that you don't get stuck in a rut. The more you think about what you write, the better your product is going to be. And it's not about the product, but the better that your process is going to be, the better that you know, you're going to be able to express yourself. And oh, I was going to have another point. What was the point? For your product. No, it's gone. I'll have it back eventually. But yeah, like it's really important to ask yourself those questions. Or even if you come up with questions that aren't on here, really reflection is a huge part of making music. It's really the only part, honestly. Well, I mean, aside from playing, you know, your instruments, but of course that's a little bit different. So yeah, I'm gonna grill you a little bit. Sophia, if you're still there, I'll ask you, why do you write? Do you write?
Well, I used to write when I was younger because my like biggest passion in life when I was like 6 was to be the next Hannah Montana.
Yes.
Me too. That's crazy.
Yeah. And like now I do a lot of writing still, a lot of poems. I don't really write songs as much. I just like sing covers of music, but I really would like to like step back and go back into songwriting.
Sure. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper than that. Why did you do that stuff? I mean, why did you want to be the next Hannah Montana?
I have loved singing and like acting, all of that, like performing arts since like I could talk. Like I've loved it so much. I've been in choir for my whole life, and
right.
writing my own songs. Like I had a whole songbook and everything, but I can't find it.
No, that's okay.
I had so many songs. I wrote like 5 songs every day, and it was like they were okay for like a 6 to 8 year old, but I don't know. One day I just like stopped writing them, and I sang like other songs instead.
Okay, so something that I'm kind of hearing is that it's just something that you do. You know, it's just you enjoy it so much that it's almost just like, oh well, you know, it wouldn't make sense not to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then you can always go a little further and ask yourself, well, why is that? So be that 5-year-old, be that 6-year-old that's writing songs. Ask yourself why. And the more whys you get to the very bottom, you can kind of understand yourself a little bit more. And I'm not gonna, you know, we're not gonna get there today. But yeah, I'll ask you another question then. Do you have an idea of when you best write?
Maybe whenever I'm like sad or whenever I'm feeling my emotions, because emotions can definitely take a toll on like whatever you write, whether it be a song or like a poem or something. So I feel like that's when I best, you know, when it comes to writing.
Sure. So almost when you have that inspiration of emotion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So one thing I'll say is it's great that you use music to get those emotions out. But something that I might try is to see if there's a certain time of day or a certain day or like a certain, you know, specific concrete thing, because you're always going to get emotions at different points. So see if there's a time in which, all right, well, this is kind of when I like, so like morning or afternoon or like at a certain point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go on. Do you have any questions so far, Sophia?
Well, yeah, I have, like, whenever you just brought up the different times of the day. So, what time do you think is best?
That.
Paul
All right.
lives on a different schedule than you and I, Sophia. I just want you to know.
Yeah.
Paul is almost entirely nocturnal, so like a
Yeah.
normal day for Paul is going to be the opposite for most of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I will say though, it really varies, and I hope you don't see this as like almost a non-answer, but it really varies. I've talked to people, and one of the people, Jeff Linden, that I was talking to, said that he wakes up and he does his best writing in the morning. I think he's a sociopath. That's insane. So for me, I would never wake up and write something. For me, I need everybody to go to bed, and I need to be awake for 12 hours, and I need to be alone. That's when I do my best writing. I think that something that you almost have to look for is that feeling of, okay, now I can write. So I'm sure that Jeff wakes up, he's like, okay, now I can write. And I wait till everybody's asleep, and I'll go, okay, now I can write. Or it'll be like after you eat lunch, okay, now I can write. So whenever you kind of hear yourself say, all right, this is probably a good time, might be the time, you know? So it again, it really varies. It really depends. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So let's keep going. Oh, and yeah, I'll talk about this for a second. What slide are we on? We're on slide 7. Oh my God, we're not going to finish. Whatever. So, you know, talk about specifically why do you like your favorite type of music, and I think that helps a whole lot when you're thinking about what you're going to create. I love Death Cab for Cutie. I love My Chemical Romance. I love Billie Eilish. I do love Billie Eilish. I love Conor Oberst. I like these people for different reasons, and I like to incorporate different aspects of what they do in my own writing. I'm not trying to copy them, but what I'm trying to do is to kind of like really analyze, why did that lyric hit me the way it did? And kind of say, oh, well, it was set up like this, it was like this. So just kind of asking yourself questions. You can never ask yourself enough questions is kind of what I'm getting at. All right, let's go on. Questions to ask yourself about the piece, about your music. So more questions on questions on questions. Is this innovative? Is this only something I could have written? I think that's important because you don't want to be writing somebody else's song. You want to be writing something that's honest. That's the second point. Is this honest? The best art, the best music, the best stuff that you can relate to is going to come from yourself. So really, when you have this art, when you have this music, when you've written it, these are some questions to ask after, or even during. I like to ask them after, or if I'm kind of stuck in the middle. I'll be like, okay, well, how is this a song only I could have created? And I have some songs like that. There are some specific places in songs that only I've been to at a certain time that I'll write about. There are some, people in my songs that I reference that only I could write about. So really you have to think, why am I writing this? And how is this different from somebody else? Like if somebody else was writing this same exact topic, how would I really, how would mine be different than theirs? Does that make sense? Yeah. Nicole's like,
I think so. I think so. I don't write music. I just listen to it. But I get it.
Yeah.
It's
heady stuff. This is kind of like going really into it.
No, I mean, you can even think of it as like, listen, there are a million different love songs out there, but everyone has a different perspective and approach that makes them all different.
Yeah, exactly. How have I conveyed this to my listener? How did I guide my listener? Again, that's going to be with your vibe. If you write a love song that's sad, it's going to be way different than a love song that's happy. Is this the same idea of what you want to relate? If you write a sad song and it's coming out happy and you don't want it to be happy, how can you change it, right? Starting with a thesis. And for those of you who don't know, that's Martin Luther, wrote the 95 Thesis. Really great guy. What's that?
Sweet haircut. Clearly.
Yeah, the you know, honestly, that's a look.
Fashion.
They should
Oh,
bring
yes.
it back. Yeah. I could see him like being in Zoolander, be like, fashion. Cool.
Oh yeah.
So this is kind of like how I like to think of lyrics anyway. So I like to start with the thesis, or this is what I've been doing anyway. I'm kind of forcing myself to like writing like this. So start with an idea and kind of think about that idea, and come up with 1 or 2 lines, and that's like, okay, that's what the song is about. And if you've been in school, which I know you have, the way to write an essay is you have your introduction, and then every one of those body paragraphs are a different point to that that introduction. So really, the chorus is kind of like that. So your chorus is the point, and then your verses are kind of backing the chorus up. So let's just take a look at this one here song. It's called "Look at Me Now" by Caroline Polachek. That is her name. All right. So the chorus here, let's just take a look. The chorus is, "You can't look at me now. I haven't changed. I'm still the same. But you can't look at me now, a hand grenade to throw away." And each of these verses, let's just kind of go through it. Wrote myself a letter, just a single question. When you finally get this, where will you be? Will you be a shipwreck or a star, falling for a boy who doesn't play guitar? Now rewind the tape back to the start, so I'd never leave you, but here we are. And this chorus means something to this verse, right? So it almost is kind of saying, you know, she's not really looking at herself. So this whole first part is kind of her talking to herself. And then this chorus is her being like, okay, well, you know, I can't really see me now. So these kind of line up, right? Now the second verse, now my friends all tell me, girl, you're getting skinny. Have you not been sleeping? How could I be? Trying to get the light switch in the dark, burying the good girl I know I'm not. Now rewind the tape back to the start, so I'd never leave you, but here we are. And here we have the same chorus. You can't look at me now. I haven't changed. I'm still the same. And this is almost about talking to her friends. You know, this is kind of reframing. Now this chorus is all suddenly about someone else. This chorus is about something else. So even though it's the same words, it's about something else, right? And now this bridge, I can't run anymore. Got to stay right here and face the storm. I can't run anymore. Where's a wake-up call is all I know. And ad nauseum. So now what you have is your chorus, and this I almost see as defiant. You can't look at me now. I haven't changed. I'm still the same. So this is almost to me like a, you know, a statement, whereas the other two are reflections. And again, just really, really heady stuff, really technical stuff. But the way that kind of I like to think of writing my own music is, how does this chorus relate to these verses? And it is so hard. It is so incredibly hard. But that's, I think, what makes art worth it. You're gonna feel as if art is hard, but that's okay. Getting back to our dude Martin Luther. Let's see. All right. Starting with the thesis. Okay. So another piece of advice I'll give is that you have to talk to other songwriters. I think that signing up for this seminar was a great first place to start, or, you know, not to start. That's to say that you haven't done this before, but really, it's a good thing that you signed up for this, because that shows me that you want to kind of really, you know, get other people's opinions on this. Back in May, I think that what I did was, right in the middle of my songwriting kick, I was like, okay, I'm going to call up every musician I know. Well, a lot of musicians. I didn't call some people, but ended up getting their opinions and getting their advice and getting their ideas about what music is. And I think that's really invaluable. It's super important, because you can ask yourself all the questions you like, but if you're not getting input from other people, creative ideas from other people, that's really, you're shooting yourself in the foot almost. Especially when you're coming up with a process, and especially when you're trying to figure out, you know, a way to write songs and really reflecting. So talking to other people, and let's just kind of note here the cell phone on this dude.
God.
It is straight up like the 90s, and I saw
looks
that.
like my tape dispenser.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You may as well try to call
the
someone.
same thing. Anyway.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, 90s, a heck of a time. All right. Techniques, let's see. All right, so here are some, I'm just gonna kind of rapid fire here. Take other progressions and make them your own. Oh, let's do this. So I'll kind of give you an example of something that I do. If anybody would like to give me a song, any song.
Crocodile Rock.
Crocodile. All right. Keep going because it has to be a song I don't know.
Philadelphia Freedom also by Elton John.
Sure. All right. So something that I'll do is I will, let's see, Philadelphia Freedom, Elton John lyrics. So something that I'll do if I have a chord progression is I'll look up lyrics I have no idea what look like, right? So, or sound like rather. So I'll look up these lyrics and I'll be like, okay, so this is how I'm gonna create a melody. And I'll have this like, I don't know. Can you guys hear this guitar? All right, so I'll be like, I used to be a rolling stone, you know, if the cause was right, I'd leave to find the answers on their own. I used to be a heart beating for someone, but the times have changed. The less I say, the more my work gets done. So just like having no idea what a song sounds like and taking those lyrics just to kind of generate some melodies. So I think there was some cool things that I did in there that I liked. I might try to put some lyrics to that, but at least there I'll have a standing point from, all right, now I have something to work with. Now I have a melody, and now I can kind of piecemeal it together. That's something that I like to do. I like to have something here and then put them together, because writing together is just impossible for me. And I think that it makes it a whole lot easier if you put things together from different realms. So now I have that melody. I might have a poem that I want to put that melody to, and that's where the magic happens. Let's see, where, there we go. Come on. Present. Okay, so that's one technique that I do. Take other progressions and make them your own, kind of the same idea. Go on different websites and be like, okay, well, here's a progression. Maybe I'll make it my own. Don't be afraid of mistakes. If you make a mistake, try to think of it like, all right, well, how will this progress my song? One of my favorite songs is the song called I Will Possess Your Heart by Death Cab for Cutie. And what happens is, in the beginning, there's this whole incredible instrumental part, and it's like 4 minutes long. It's insane. And then the drums cut out, and he has this like, he starts singing, the lead singer, and the drums cut out, and everything else is kind of going at the same time, but then the drums come back in. And I later found out that that was a mistake. But one of their rules that they made for themselves was like, if you mess up, keep going. So that's what the drummer did. He didn't know when to stop, so he stopped a little bit too early by accident. And then that's just what made the song. It would be such a different song if that didn't happen, and it made it so much better. So if you have a mistake, maybe use that chord. If you have, you know, this weird kind of thing that happens, maybe use it. Make limitations. And that's kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier. You know, if you have these rules for yourself, or you have limitations, you can use them to be a little bit more creative. And it almost sounds like an oxymoron, like it's reversed, because usually people think of limitations that they think of stifled creativity. But I like to think of it as you have all of these options to do something around this idea, right? So for example, something that I do is I go on randomnumbergenerator.com, right? And I type in my range is from 1 to 500. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how I just write things in Excel. Like, here are my one-liners. I have a whole bunch of one-lines. So what I'll do is I'll create just like, I'll write 3 numbers out. I'll generate 3 numbers. So like, it's like maybe 3, 412, and 211. And I'll take each of those lines and be like, how am I going to make this work? I have to use these lines. How do they relate to each other? So making rules for yourself and making limitations can be almost a springboard into being creative. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah, we have a whole lot. We have a whole lot more, I think.
Okay.
Slide 12. I think I have like 24 slides, and we're like halfway there. But
Half hour left. So.
okay, all right. So let me ask real quick. So Sophia, was there a song that you wanted to share, just so that I know when to wrap up and if we need to wrap up a little bit earlier?
No, I unfortunately don't have any songs with me.
That's okay.
That's all right. No worries. Cool. All right. So I guess we'll get through the PowerPoint then. Yeah. So let's see. And these are all just different techniques that you can use. You can make your limitations. You can free write. And if you don't know what free writing is, that's when you put your pen to paper or your fingers to buttons, and you don't stop writing. You make a timer for yourself or a limitation for yourself. Let's say like a page. So what I had done recently was I started a free writing journal, and I would just be like, okay, well, here are just random thoughts, and they're going to be for 1 page. And then here's another one. This is another day. This is another day. This is another day. So just kind of getting into an example of, using that free writing to get ideas that you may not have had. Because sometimes when you just have this flow of consciousness going, there could be some cool ideas in there. I definitely have some weird ideas in there, but like, it's cool to get them out. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of what you write, because to be bored is bad. To be embarrassed is good. There's a huge difference there. People stop writing because they think it's bad. Sure. People stop writing because they're embarrassed. That's a bad thing. It's almost like you have to involve that emotion with you. So let's see. Take from your other songs. Yeah, and this is another thing. I have a whole repository of half-finished songs. What I like to do with those half-finished songs is take a verse from here, chorus from here, bridge from here, just Frankenstein them all together. That's another technique. Show, don't tell. And what I mean by that is when you're writing lyrics, sometimes people can get in the habit of, I went to the market, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Showing your point in a way that uses those ideas is really kind of more important. So what does that mean that you went to the market? What does that mean that you did this and that? How does that tie the song together? So yeah, that was something that I was struggling with, and I think that's something that's important to think of. Stream of consciousness and improvisation. That's kind of what John Mayer did. Write something every day. Write something all the time. Just write as much as you can. That's not to say force it, but the more that you do something, the easier it's going to be. The more that your brain is wired to do something. Nicole, you look like straight up Hannibal Lecter right now. It's great.
The lights went off again, and I'm just like, I don't really. My other coworkers should be coming into the office momentarily, so they'll go on eventually. It's fine.
Okay, it's great. It's just so good. But yeah, so you have the more you do something, the more you're training your brain to do it. So at the beginning of my process, what I would do is just kind of like write something on my phone every time that I thought of, I don't know, something cool, and maybe I would get like 1 or 2 a day. Now it's like it's almost subconscious. Every time I have this cool thought, I'm reaching for my phone. So the more you're training, the more you do something, the more you train your brain for it, the easier it's going to be, the less self-conscious you get about it. So just keep going and keep going. Overwrite. That's something that I like to do. If you have, you know, a song that you're working on lyrics for, and you have 2 verses and a chorus, that's not to say that you can't have written more verses. So Sophia, like you were saying, you have almost this poem thing going on, right? Something that I do is I overwrite poems. So I'll be like, okay, well, this poem could be done, but maybe I'll write a whole lot more and see what I like to put in. It's always better to say, I wish that I could have put that in, rather than, well, I don't have enough, right? There's always, it's always more important to have more than you need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Use dynamics. Dynamics are making your song louder or softer. Use that in your structure. Use randomness. I know someone who goes on someone's Spotify. Like, I know somebody who just uses random Spotify playlists, picks a random part of the song and listens to it for 2 seconds and is like, okay, well, I'm going to use this melody. Doesn't even know what song it's from. So he's kind of like, not plagiarizing, but he's using a limitation. He's like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, and how can I be creative with this? Matt Smith actually does that. Yeah, interesting. It's really cool. And make a spreadsheet, that's kind of what I do. Yeah, so we'll go on. Any questions so far?
No.
Cool. Oblique strategies, galaxy brain. All right, so this is something that I like to think of when things get a little bit, you know, if I feel like I'm stuck. So this is just kind of like a website on what each key signature means. So C major says here, completely pure, character is innocence, simplicity, naivety, children's talk. Say like E flat major is the key of love, of devotion, of intimate conversation with God. E major, noisy shouts of joy, laughing pleasure and not yet complete. Full delight lies in E major. That does not necessarily mean that these are what these key signatures mean. I think that's actually kind of wacky. But something that I like to do is I'll see what key my song is in, and say it's in, like, you know, say it's in C minor. Declaration of love at the same time, the lament of unhappy love, all languishing longing, sighing of the love-sick soul lies in this key. So something that I'll do is I'll be like, okay, well, I don't have a bridge, but this is an idea, you know, so how can I frame my song in a way that maybe is a declaration of love or of lament? Just taking bits and pieces of this and seeing like, okay, well, what can I make work? So it's taking these really big abstract ideas and applying it to your song. I know another oblique strategy is there are these kind of flashcards that you can order. And for example, one of them is twist the spine. What does that mean? So twist the spine could be like, okay, well, if you're thinking of it in the terms of your song, you'd be like, well, where is my spine? What does the spine mean? Is this something that's fragile or is this something that's sturdy? Where in, you know, where in the song is my spine now? And then twist it. What does to twist this mean? So something that I might think is like, all right, so take this bridge, but make it completely about something else, you know? So this is just kind of like strategies to get yourself out of a funk. or just to even be more creative. There's no limitation to your creativity. I'm sure like Mr. Rogers or someone said that. Yeah, use abstract ideas. That's kind of where we are right now. Yeah, all right. So, Nicole, I know that you are not a songwriter, but you are you're very much around songs. You're very much around music. And Sophia, I'm going to ask you too. And Izzy and Lux, if you're there, if you would like to chime in, absolutely. If you want to just kind of chill, that's all right too. Just want to involve you a little bit. So if you were in my position right now, what advice would you give to someone asking you about music, like about songwriting? And it's interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think everybody's gonna have a sort of very different opinion on this. I don't know anything about music, like the mechanics of music, notes, notes and chords and stuff like that. So I have a lot of I have to concentrate on lyrics, and I always do. Like if I'm listening to something in general, I'm always focused on the lyrics. Like I can't just put music on in the background. So I mean, I don't know. I like lyrics that kind of tell a story, or if it's about a specific person, in so many words, just try and communicate what that person is about, even if it's a completely fictional character, which, a lot of the times it is, but throw me a line that I can picture them in my head, kind of, and not even physically, but just sort of, are they surly? Are they, weak? Are they strong? Are they feeling this way or that way? I always am looking to form a picture, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm very just image heavy in a way, but also emotional. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's good advice. You kind of hit on something that I was talking to Matt Smith about. You like to see a song almost as I want to say a full story of a character almost.
Yes.
So yeah, and then he almost views it the same way. So something that I might do under your advice is to create a character, right? And kind of put him in a story or her in a story and use that story to think about past experiences that I have. So I'd be like, okay, well, this person is going through this. How can I relate to that? And then write from maybe that point of view. So yeah, totally good. That's a different technique. Sophia, if you were in my position, what advice would you give someone asking you about songwriting?
Well, I would definitely tell them to write from the heart. Not to just write someone else's story. I mean, they could totally write someone else's story, but I feel like writing from your own heart adds more feeling and emotion, and it makes that song more meaningful and powerful. So yeah,
absolutely. And that's kind of touching on, if I'm hearing you right, that's being honest, right? If you're writing from the heart, you're being honest about something, right? Yeah, and I'll kind of go off and say, you can still write from the heart from somebody else's perspective too. So, for example, kind of Nicole was saying, if I have, all right, yeah, this is really nerdy.
You're in the right place. Don't worry.
Yeah, no kidding. So I listened to a podcast called Presidential, and it's all about the different presidents. And I'm trying to do that just so that I can, get more knowledge so I can go on Jeopardy. And end up, there was this one, Theodore Roosevelt had a really sad life, super sad. So, super awesome. But something that happened to him was he had a whole bunch of people around him die. And then he just never stopped moving because he had this idea of if you stop moving, you'll let the bad feelings catch up to you. So I kind of almost wanted to write about him. I was like, all right, I'm going to write about this from the idea of Theodore Roosevelt. And now I have this song called Black Care Forward Charge. And it's all about how, feeling that, if you stop, something bad's going to happen. not to say that's, you know, what's going to happen, but like, that's just a feeling, you know? So I took this idea in the terms of Theodore Roosevelt, and I was like, okay, well, how can I apply this to my own feelings? So yeah, totally. And I find it hilarious that help, support, advice, and guidance are all the same thing. Really?
But they're all going in different directions.
Yeah. Advice I've received. Here's this sagely looking dude. Let the songs marinate. If you like a song, cool. The next day you might not. That's okay. If you don't like a song, cool. The next day you might. Let it chill. Write drunk, edit sober. Not literally. So what that means is kind of like write from the heart. Get all those super crazy emotions out, but then later really think about them and be like, you know, how can I relay this? Ask those questions. How can I convey this to an audience? What does this mean? How can I make this better? So really important to get your emotions out, but then go back and fix them, right? Chase what is interesting. If you don't like it, don't write about it. Write several things at a time. If you like several things, write about them. Learn as many songs as you can. If you like songs, learn them. They're going to help you be a better musician. I have a style of playing where it's very finger picking, and it's very, you know, I guess signature of me. But one of the things that I did was I learned this song called "I Will Follow You Into the Dark" by Death Cab for Cutie, and it's literally the same thing. So learning that song influenced my playing a crazy amount. If you learn songs, they will influence you and they'll give you more tools. Learn as many songs as you can. Bored is bad. Embarrassed is good. We kind of talked about this a little bit. That's some advice I got. Don't be so self-conscious of a song that you can't write it. It's worse to be bored of a song because that means that you're not invested. Where's the point? There was another point. Bad, embarrassed, good. Yeah, and another thing is to forgive yourself. Really, that's a huge theme of writing. A lot of times I won't finish a song because I think it's bad. Forgive yourself. There's no such thing as, you know, well, there is such a thing as writing a bad song, but there's no such thing as being too self-conscious to be able to write a song. Write it. That's your process. That's your life, you know? Melody is the most important part of a song. Yeah, I think so. And then another one is if blank was trying to do blank. So I would be writing a song and it'd be like, okay, well, what if Bon Jovi was trying to do My Chemical Romance, and try to see how that would sound. So kind of create different, you know, soundscapes for yourself. Rafiki, he's the monkey. Yeah.
He's great.
Keep album order in. What's up? I'm sorry, Nicole.
I said he's a mandrill, actually, but whatever.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so happy to know that now. That's the best. Yeah. So keep album order in mind. If you don't have an album, whatever. But some people that I know, Jeff Linden, likes to create songs in order. So he'll think, okay, well,
really?
This is my intro. Yeah. He'll be like, this is my intro song.
Oh my
this
God.
is the third song on the album, and this is what this should mean. This is the second song. This is what this should mean. So he'll almost make the songs out before he writes them. He makes, he'll like, it's crazy. It's really kind of cool. Avoid preachiness by asking questions. If you feel like you're talking at somebody, if you feel like, you know, you're being like, okay, well, you know, this is what this is, and you're kind of almost self-conscious about it. One of the things that you can do is ask a question. So instead of saying life is like this, you can be like, well, what if life was like this? Kind of changes it. Show, don't tell. I think we went into that a little bit. Forget the rule book. Think about where you want to arrive. Write lyrics without knowing. Yeah, that's kind of what I do too. You can write lyrics without knowing what they mean and then edit them. Musicians have seasons, and it's important to kind of recognize, you know, being a musician is being a part of two totally different, you know, different disciplines. So I like writing, I also like recording, and I also like performing. I like doing them at different times. So if I'm in a writing kick, I want to do writing. If I'm in a performing kick, I want to do performing. So just kind of taking in all the aspects of being a musician and being like, okay, well, you know, this is okay that I feel this way. And then these are kind of similar. Advice I was given, Paul Blart is an incredible sage. You should watch Paul Blart. I don't know. I've never seen it. Is it rated R?
I don't think so. But
Okay, I wouldn't think it would be, right?
no idea.
Don't let your songs be overly precious. If you are like, wow, this is my best song ever, that's great. But you're probably not going to let yourself change it. So have these songs, but kind of view them as, not dispensable, but always changing. I have a couple of those precious songs that I would never change, and I think that is okay, but, it's kind of important to see the ability to always create more, right? Music is not a dialogue. That's kind of an interesting point where you are telling somebody something and you're not getting anything back. So if I'm singing a song to somebody, you're not hearing their response to it. You are kind of when you're looking at an audience, but when you're writing a song, it's more of a statement to somebody. Take ownership. Comes easily, is ready to be written. This was, one of my friends, Bobby, said, when it comes easily, it is ready to be written. What he likes to do is he'll say, all right, well, he'll have a half-written song, and then at the end, he won't be able to finish it, but he'll come back to it a couple years later and want to write it. That's when it's ready to be written. And then you also have to write a whole bunch of songs to get to the good ones. There's no shortcuts there.
You're at 8 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through this and
But,
see.
I don't know, if you go over, I don't know if Zoom goes like, hey, do you need more time? I don't know. So,
Yeah, you know what? This is what I'll do. Editing, literal meaning, writer's block. Yeah, all right. Let's talk about writer's block for a second. And I think that's kind of where we'll end. And I will share this this with Nicole, and I think that I wouldn't mind if she sent it to you two. I'm not overly precious about this, but just in case you haven't been taking notes, that's cool. So writer's block does not exist. It exists, but really not in the way that you're thinking. A lot of times when I hit writer's block, I'm like, okay, well, it's just because something's not coming to me. That's not true. Writer's block is when you're not excited about something. It's not the inability to create. You can always create something. Whether you like it or not is a totally, totally, totally different thing. So a lot of people think of writer's block as like, well, I just have the inability to make something. It's not true. This is an awesome video. When I hope that Nicole shares this, but you should watch this. It's all about this one author, and he really goes into the idea of how to get out of this idea of writer's block and what to do to get yourself excited about a song again. So don't think of it as a block. Think of it as, I'm not excited about this anymore. Why is that? I am not motivated. Why is that? Writer's block is really just a lack of motivation. So I'll stop there, and I'll just kind of open the floor for any questions that are here. Also, if you get a chance, read this stuff about criticism. It is important. Yeah. So do we have any questions?
No.
What are you working on right now, Paul?
What am I working on right now? I am working on doing different things in GarageBand. So I am trying to figure out how to, and GarageBand is a program that you can download, and it lets you write music on a computer. I'm trying to figure out how to write full songs on GarageBand. What I am coming up with are parts. I'm trying to figure out how to get those parts together in a way that I don't hate. So kind of finding my process there. Writing on GarageBand is way different than writing on a guitar, because there's just so many options available. You can program drums, you can do guitar, bass, keyboard, whatever, sing. and having different, you know, having so much freedom almost makes someone paralyzed. And that's where I kind of am. I'm a little bit paralyzed, and I'm trying to figure out how to get past that point. Another point is that we are all constantly learning about how to write songs at all times. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that one of the biggest things that I want you guys to take away from this today is to think about your process. Why is it your process? Think about yourself, and ask yourself questions, and really forgive yourself for writing anything that doesn't really super excite you. That doesn't mean that it's bad. So don't force it, but kind of forgive yourself into writing a little bit more. You know what, and I'll just go over this criticism thing real quick. So when you're writing criticism, or when you're getting criticism, one thing that is really important is to think, why do I want criticism? Don't just throw a song out to somebody and be like, critique this. Because what will happen is they'll come back with a whole bunch of different ideas that you may just not want. So for example, I'll throw out a song and I'll be like, okay, I want you to critique my lyrics on this, or I want you to critique my guitar melody, or I want you to critique my meaning. Does this mean the same thing to you as it does to me? That's kind of really important because it helps you to pinpoint your strengths and weaknesses, and it helps to get the conversation going in a certain way. So keep it less open and ask for specific criticism. You can never go wrong with that. And then also be ready for the criticism when you ask for it. If you know that you don't want criticism, don't ask for criticism. Get to a point where you need, you know, where you are ready to take people's ideas into consideration. And also really to set yourself boundaries as far as criticism. So like, you know, if you want, you know, to get, you know, one person's advice, only give them like 3 go-arounds. Like give them like I want 3 pieces of criticism. Because if you don't cap it off, you're going to get a whole lot of information. And, you know, it's important to kind of take everything piecemeal. I think I'm just about tapped out here. I think that we got through a lot.
Extremely thorough.
Yes. I'm glad it was. Oh, look at the little skeleton dude.
I know, he's cute.
I named him Bob. All right.
Hey, Bob.
Cool. So listen, I hope that you guys got something from this, and I hope you know that you take this farther. You can always ask different people, and I hope that you kind of take what you learned and go forth and spread music.
Yay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that you can like send the Google slide to the
Yeah,
email?
I can do that.
Yep.
Thank
I can do
you.
that. Absolutely. If
I
I
will.
don't do it today, I can do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope that again you got something out of it. And really take care and stay safe. And
Thank you so much, Paul.
you're good. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night, guys.
Take it
Stay
easy.
safe.
Thank you. Thank you.